Today we're going to look at the radial elements method for intersection of solids. Now this is a really important method that comes up all over the place. All right, we're given this part of the drawing here, a little bit of a hexagonal thing, that's pyramid that's cut, small bit of thinking on how to do it. Going to draw that plan, project front and end elevation. Okay, so this is on page 180, see there, of the art book. Right, now let's see how we're going to do this. First of all, I just want to get our plan drawn and get the ball rolling, and I'm going to look at the idea underneath all of this. So we'll XY line there. Now, if we look at this drawing, it's kind of annoying because it is tilted over at a 45-degree angle. So what I'm going to do is, having a look at this, I'm going to estimate roughly how big that is. So let's call it maybe 80 mil. All right, that's 50. It's a bit bigger. Okay, so I'll come down 100 mil from the XY line. Let's see, that should work out pretty well. And if I'm wrong, I can always just move the XY line. So we're going to pick a point to start this. And that's going to be the very bottom point. And we can then go up at 45 degrees. Now we're told the side of this is 44 millimeters. So I'll go and do my first one in nice and heavy. There we have it. Okay, but what about the rest of them? Now there's a couple ways you can do it. You can begin to sort of stack T-squares and bits and pieces and so on. But I would say the slightly easier way to do it is to think, well, if I'm doing a hexagon, I want that. All right, so how can I get it? So how can I begin to move this thing around? All right, well, what I'm going to do is, if I line up these guys like this, so I have it on that edge there, and now if I slide, I have that angle. There it is. Okay, so just by kind of setting up, saying I've got this, slide and I want that. We'll do the same for over here. So on this one here, I really want that. So how am I going to work this one out? Here we have it. Okay, I'm just going to make sure we can see this as much as we can. All right, so just to show you, I'm setting them up like this. Okay, because I want to slide this guy down here and get that angle. So there we go. Now we know it's 44 long. Now just to make sure it's all bang on, I'm going to use my compass to copy the lengths so we don't get these small little differences kind of creeping into it. So there we go. So there is my mark there and there. Now, while I've got my compass, I may as well mark the other two. They're going to be about there and there. And we just do a similar technique. And because they're hexagons, there's loads of ways we can do it. I think we're going to get, you know, let's have a little look here. We're going to have something like that, aren't we? So again, I will do the same idea here. Lining that up. No, that's not going to work, is it? This side, of course. And don't be afraid to experiment a little bit. There's only so many combinations it can be. There we are. Have that there. And at this stage, to be honest, the quickest way to get the other one is just like that. Okay. Now, other ways I could have done it, if I really wanted to do, is realize that this edge here is going to be parallel to this one. So I could have slid over here and got a parallel line. Okay, and equally I could have done the same with this one. Of course, that's 45 degrees, so I could have gone back to the original T-square. I could have just used this. There we go. And that one actually slipped off a little bit, so we're just going to go back. We're going to have to go back and fix that one. Small little slip, and it didn't look like it was the happiest I've ever had anyway. So this is a lovely bit of practice for those small little drawing challenges they like to bring into things, and can be kind of disconcerting if you get thrown at the beginning of the drawing. But they're usually not too bad once we get a bit of practice with them. If you ever see a hexagon, there is millions of ways to do hexagons. So don't ever freak out. And don't worry about thinking about which is the best one. Just do it. Okay, now I'm going to put this drawing board back so we can see it a little bit more clearly. All right. Now, what are we going to do next? Well, we will connect the dots. So I'll just do these as constructions for the moment. See what's real. Let's because this is a pyramid. There we go. Now we have a little square drawn into this one, so let's go have a peek at the square and see what we can figure out. Okay, 50 mil aside. We know the angle of it, 60 degrees to the horizontal, and look, it goes right to the edge there. Okay, we can work with that. Bring our T-square back on. It goes up along here. We'll set our compass to 50. Here we go. That's 50. And we're just going to use, we'll get this all with the T-square. Down there. Across here. Rescue that pencil. And up we go. And if you look at the drawing, this is going to be a heavy line here. All of these ones. So we go back now, put them in heavy. Make sure things are working out nicely. You can see that that should, I'd expect that to hit there, so that's good. We're on the right track. And here we go. This is our plan. Now, yeah, housekeeping. This is a heavy line, as are any of the ones around here. So again, we just put these in. Don't want to forget about them at the end and give away easy little marks. Now my constructions are a bit on the heavy side, so you can see them. Yours should be invisible if they're being videoed in this. Right. Well, now we have that. Okay. So, what are we going to do next? Well, like any of these drawings here, we're going to make this easier by labeling some points. So, let's pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I always like to use the top one, the peak of it as 0, because it's just a little thing in my head. The top is always 0. Off we go. Now, again, let's do a little bit of the easy stuff in here. So we're going to project this up and see can we get this done in the elevation. Okay, that's the outer limits of it. Am I given the total height? Now, on this one, I'm probably given the total height here. You can see it's in this part of the question. It's 80 millimeters. So I'll go pop that in now. So we'll project up from 0. And should we just set that to 10? We can pick it up. So that is 80 high. 8 millimeters high, just in case you haven't got your book handy. So that's 0 there. And we can begin to connect these up. Now I'm just going to do construction lines. I haven't really figured out what it's going to look like yet. I just want to get a bit of a feel for how this thing is going to sit on the page. Alright, so that's point 4 there. And that's point 1. The rest of them are all in between, which will take a moment and send them up. 6. I know I haven't talked about the harder parts of the drawing yet, and the reason is, generally when I approach these things, you know, you get to the point where you know roughly what you're doing. I would look at a problem like this and I would think radial elements, all right? Mainly because I see problems there and there, all right? But also we're putting the easy bits down, we're settling ourselves, we're getting into the drawing, and we're making the harder bits much more manageable because we can see what's going on. Okay, and we're picking up tons of marks too, which is no harm. So, there we go. Send these guys across, and again, I'm just going to do the outer ones to make sure this fits. Now, we do have a rather annoying shadow from the bit of my window across this, so I'm going to bear with me on this one. We have one of these days where it's both bright and cloudy in and out, so we have to keep an eye on the exposure in case you lose it. So there's my two edges, so that's 0.2 and that's 0.5. And we'll bring the center across. Okay. And that's of course still 80 mils high, no matter which way you look at it. So there's 0. And we can just throw our little constructions in to show this. Now loads of this stuff is cut away by that square cut, but we'll worry about that when we get to it. Now, elevation and view. Okay, this is beginning to take shape. So what we'll do is I am just going to put these in as very light lines, light little constructions. I'm going to need to use them along the way to solve it. But I don't know what's there, what's hidden, what's just gone. All that is yet to come. We'll do the same over here. So if you know what you're doing, you're comfortable with it, you can skip the video here until we get to the point where we're beginning to try and deal with the edges of this. That's 3. And be nice and methodical, tracking all the numbers, because this way I'm only dealing with little problems at a time. Okay. I'm not worried about losing track of them. With some of these questions, it's kind of a case of managing a lot of information and breaking it down so you only have to solve 1 or 2 bits at a time. I'm just going to readjust our lighting slightly. There we go. Okay, so we have all this kind of stuff in place. Now let's give some bits in this one, some labels in these corners here. We have A. Actually, if I thought of this to make life easier for you, I will use the same ones I use in your book. So we'll call that one there A, and we have B, C, and D. Okay, so let's see what we can figure out here. Well, first of all, 2 of these are easy. A is there. It's at 4. It's down low. It's on the ground. So that is 4 and A. And 4 there is also A. So that one wasn't too bad. C is a bit easier too. Okay, C is just like the limits method. It's on that edge from 0 to 1. So if I find the edge from 0 to 1, there it is in elevation. Let's project up. And there's C. Okay, so that one isn't going too bad. C in this, and here we'll do exactly the same technique. Send it across. Now I don't even need to do that, as you'll notice. And send it up, or of course I could send it across here. 2 different ways of getting it. Okay, because I know it's on the edge. And look, these will line up. And of course, this is one little challenge you can see, because it's hitting the line so at such an angle. All right. It is tricky to get it bang on. That's about 1 millimeter off, and it's showing us maybe 4 mil down. So I wouldn't use the one going across. It's a little bit more accurate. Okay. Now, so there we are. That's those 2. Again, I'm going to worry about the hidden lines and stuff later on. So A and C were easy enough, but B and D is our challenge. And that's what we need to look at today. And that's what our radial elements is all about. So the problem with D is that it's not on an edge. So the solution is to put it on an edge. That's really the whole technique. What we're going to do is we're going to create an artificial edge from 0 through D down to the ground. Okay, and that is my radial element. Okay, let's say it hits at point X, because you know I love a good old label. Well, send that across, send it up. Now in this case it's quite easy to see because it's on the ground. It's on edge 6 to 5, which is there. So that's X there. And if we were to recreate that radial element, which is rather tough with a slightly blunt colouring pencil, but you'll do this much nicer than me, we'll bring it up here. So now we've rebuilt it. All right, D is just along there. Now, as you can see from the problem we had with the very, very tight angles, I'm going to bring it up here as well, and we'll solve it at the top before we go any further. Now, this one we've got to be, that actually turns out that is actually straight down, so that's fine. So X is there. So if we rebuild x to 0 is going to be there. Of course, then I can't get the height, so I have to take it from the side, and that's fine. We'll bring it around. So that's where D is going to be. And we'll send it back across. And there we have it. So now I've found D. Exact same technique for B. It's not on an edge, so let's put it on an edge. There we go. Let's call that point Y where it hits the ground, where it hits 2 to 3. And sometimes if you're using these in an auxiliary view, you will need to note which edge it actually contacts. Now we'll try setting this one up. We might be able to solve this directly. So that's where Y is. So there we go. We can recreate this guy up here. And there we go. So B is on that edge. Send it straight up. Now this time I am going to cross check bringing it around just because of the tiny margins of error. It'll give me a slightly more accurate result. So we'll bring Y across. Oops. And up, and see it hits between 2 and 3, which is exactly where I'd expect it. Now the only thing I dislike about this drawing is it does give very tight angles, but we shall persevere and make do, and give us some nice practice with our drawings. So there we have it there, and if you can see, so I should see it about there and there, and if I line this guy up, yeah, that's actually working quite nicely. So there we go, send it back. And that does line up well. If yours is looking a little bit different from this, I wouldn't be getting too upset. Once you're on the right track, if they're out by a couple of mil and you'll see the shape might shift afterwards, that's not the end of the world. Okay, so now we've found our points, and that's the key big thing we want to take from today. I think this, all right, we can still see our stuff. So the next thing we need to do, of course, is our sequence. This looks like a bit of a mess. No big deal. We find a sequence. Now, what we do with the other little chappies here, don't we? Look, there we go. We have a couple little bend points. So before we go into our sequence, we'll put our bend points in. So let's start from A. We'll call that one P, Q, R, and T. Okay, so I was getting ahead of myself, getting excited thinking of the end. Well, these ones are fairly easy to get. It was the same ones we did yesterday. Q is on 2 to 0. Send it up. There's Q. And again, I'm just going to go straight across with this. It's on 2 to 0, so Q is here. Okay, next one we'll do OR. OR is on 6 to 0. It's this one here. Send up OR. And there's OR. Send OR across. 6 to 0 is this one. There's OR going across. So it is there. T. T is on 5 to 0. There's T. And you realize I could be going up this way as well. One or the other, either works. 5 to 0 is one right at the very edge of this guy here. So there's T, the edge. And what have we got left? P. We've got P. P is on 3 to 0. There's P. And we'll send this guy across. 3 to 0 is the second one. P is the higher one of that pair. And that is P. Okay, so I think we're kind of on the right track here. This is coming together. Now we go to our sequence. Well, you see the sequence most easily in plan. So let's have a look. Start at A, why not? A, and we'll go clockwise, I guess. A goes to T, goes to D. You can go counterclockwise if you like. Goes to OR, C, but then you risk going back into 2020. Wouldn't want that now, would we? Goes to B, goes to P, and goes back to A. So just make sure we can see that clearly. Yep, there we go. Write this out, because now, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9-part problem, which is a bit of a beast, is reduced into 9 individual ones that are all easily solvable-ish. So, we'll solve this, and our final step will be hidden or not. Hidden or not. But we're not doing that just yet. We're on sequence. Okay, A. Do it here. A goes to T. T goes to D. D to OR. Where's OR? Up here. OR goes to C. C goes to Q. There's Q. Q to B. Q down to B there. Now, as you can see, I don't have to visualize this thing because this is getting a little trickier. I know some of you like just visualizing the earlier ones and working your way through it. Now, if you can do this, fair play. But I would seriously caution you about being able to do this in the pressure of an exam. That is not trivial. Okay, there we go. Now, normally I go off and I do my sequence and I come back and do hidden lines just to mix it up a bit and so you can kind of see where things are going. I'm going to begin to have a look at the hidden lines now, okay? Because we look at these different ways. So, this is up here is looking at the elevation. So make sure that's coming in. Yeah. So if I look up this way, I will see my elevation. Now the whole thing I'm going to see across the bottom, so you can go heavy across the bottom line. Alright, well what am I going to see? I'm going to see 6 to OR. Alright, definitely. I look up here, I can see that line. So let's put that one in. Okay, what else am I going to see? I'm going to see my one here from 1 to C. There we go. You see then it kind of stops and goes away there. So as I'm looking up at this, I should also see from C to OR. So if we look at this one from C to OR, that's this line going up. So you can see where it kind of goes up to the high point and then falls away. I can see from OR to D, definitely. So that's a heavy line there. It's beginning to become a little bit more visible as to what's going on now. From D, it's going to go back up to T. So I'm still on this face here. So all of this thing, this 2 edge here is going to be hidden. All right, so I'll come back to the hidden lines afterwards. I will see T to 5, however. So that's going to be another edge. I just find once you get the visible ones in it, the whole thing becomes a bit easier to manage. I will see from T to A. So it's going to come down there. Okay, so a lot of the other stuff is going to be hidden, but there'll be a few bits that I can see. All right, this line here from C to Q does become visible at this point. So here we go. It becomes visible, and it's hidden, hidden, hidden. That's the front, and then this is the inside. And I can see this all the way down until it disappears here. And then it disappears down like that. In way into kind of a hidden line again. Same thing here, it's going to reappear at this point. Up to P, and imagine as I'm looking this way, I can kind of see that line. And there it goes. Now you don't need to do this, but if you wanted to see like the orange as the inside, it'd be those sections there. Okay, I have a few more hidden lines to kind of to finish up any of these ones, so down to the numbers at the bottom. So P to 3 is a hidden edge. 4 sorted, 3 sorted, 5 we can see, 2 is the one that's missing. Okay, so there we go, and that is going to go along like that. And actually it's going to go the whole way up to Q. Okay, there's our elevation. Again, if you wanted to try and see, can you visualize it, you could bring in a little bit of shading, practice too. So that's the fronts. Now, this is not necessary, but it, you know, it might help you understand a bit of what's going on. Okay, and that face there is just that 5 to 4 section. Now, finally, see if we figure out the other edge. There we go, a little bit of darker shading. May as well make it look a little bit effective. Over here, so it's exactly the same thing here again. Now, if you think you know what you're at, pause the video, off you go, have a go at this on your own, and if not, we'll work through it together. Okay, same sequence. Where are we going? A is there, T is here. D, where is D hiding? Oh yes, D is there. Or, what a shape this thing is. Okay, C. Q. B. To P. And back to A. Well, fun times. Now, how do we begin to solve this kind of guy? What we're going to do is, again, we are looking from this way, we're seeing the elevation. Sorry, end view. Okay, and this idea of which way am I looking at one view to see another is absolutely crucial for understanding where these things go. Okay, so I can definitely see one to C. Maybe we'll start somewhere. Off we go. There it is. All right. I can see C to Q. That'll be visible. I can see, yeah, I'll see 2 to Q, which kind of makes sense. It's the edge of it. There we are. Should throw a heavy line across the bottom over here, just so we don't forget it. So that's this panel. I'll also see this panel and this panel. So let's come around here. C to OR, I should see. Grand. I will see OR down to D. Okay, and then something weird happening here, but it does go back up to T, so there you can see it. This funny little kind of a nook. Okay, a little slice out of it, and T goes down to 5, so which makes sense because it's the outer edge. 1, 2, 3. I should see 6 to OR. There it is, 6 to OR. So, what looked horrific, when you actually break it down and just go through what can be seen, it's not so bad. What are the other bits we have to do? Q to B, I won't be able to see. Definitely won't, because it's kind of dropped down here. Okay, so that's hidden. B to P is going to be hidden. It's fine. P to A is hidden. A going back up to, where am I gone? I've come around this way. Yes, A going to T. A going to T. Now, look at this. I actually think I'm going to see a little bit in the edge here. Okay, so this is all hidden. Hidden. it's behind it, but of course there's nothing to block it here, so that will be visible. And if we're going to use our same little bit of colouring from last time, that's like a little bit we're looking at on the inside. Okay, and that's it. I won't go ahead and colour this one. Colouring is optional, but it might help you to understand a bit of what's going on. The key in all of these ones though is our radial elements. If we have a point floating and it's not on an edge, put it on an edge. That allows us to find the point. Then, like before, run a sequence, otherwise it's very difficult to solve. And finally, we'll worry about the hidden or not as we get into it. Okay, have fun.